Yo, welcome back. Welcome back to the
Yes.
Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. We are here yet again, episode 17. The fantasy football season is over, but the podcast is not. Your hosts, Matt, Will, Shed, and Olu, we're back again. Thank you for being a part of our huddle. Guys, episode 17. Isn't this crazy? We just went through the whole football. We
Full
just went through the
season.
whole fantasy football season. We made it. Thank you so much to all of our viewers for keeping us going, for giving us energy, for giving us comments in our Instagram and our YouTube and banter. We love it, especially Will over here.
Lots of comments. Lots of thoughts.
But guys, the fantasy season is over. I know some of us have some winnings to talk about, but wow, 1 minute of shine. Let's just get right into it. Shed, you're up, man.
Yeah, so I got to give love to the Cleveland Browns. They are 4-1 in their last 5 games, and they're
Crazy.
playoff bound. Joe Flacco, yes, Joe Flacco, who was on the couch, 6 weeks ago? He has resurrected the Browns. Who would have thought that, right? The Browns are doing something that no other team has done. They've started 4 quarterbacks this year and are making the playoffs. Props to Flacco, props to that defense, right? Props to the coaching staff. There were rumblings going on early in the year that getting rid of Stefanski after the season, but to me that would have been a horrible mistake, especially since before he got there, they were 4-44 in their last 3 seasons. 4-44 before Stefanski got there. And they hadn't won a playoff games in 18 years. So my message to the Browns fans and ownership, relax, don't overreact. Stefanski is your guy. You are relevant, not only relevant, but playoff relevant. And you're going to continue to do good under Stefanski moving forward.
I know. Respect. Will, talk about it.
I just got to say one thing real quick about this resurgence, because Joe Flacco has not been relevant in like 5 years. Okay? So it's not as if, like, you remember the Colts, the last couple of seasons with the Colts, they signed Phillip Rivers after he was done with the Chargers. They signed Matt Ryan. And it's like those guys had been decent the season before, or maybe like 2 seasons before. They were still a starting quarterback, right? Like right before they went to the Colts, and then they just fell apart, did nothing. Joe Flacco has not been a relevant starting quarterback in 5 years, and no one wanted him. With all the quarterback injuries we've had this year, no one touched him. And then the Browns got so desperate, they call him. This man comes in and goes 4-1. So just to put it in context, it's not like he was great last year and, was just too old. No, 5 years have passed since he's done anything. So is that Stefanski? Is it he just has this renewed energy to prove himself? It's amazing what's happening there. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, where there's been a 5-year gap in relevance and then to go on a run like this.
This team, I think the statistic is no team, like they have so much of their salary cap on IR right now.
Yes.
Watson and Chubb, and to overcome that type of adversity, be relevant, be in the playoffs, you've got to root for them. You've got to root for them. I mean, if you don't root for the Browns right now, you're just a hater. But anyways, Olu, man, you're up next. 1 minute of shine.
Yeah. My 1 minute of shine is my 1 minute of shine is just me. I like to shine myself. Yeah.
Only you can do this.
I'm so glad you're doing this because I was actually going to do this for my 1 minute. Now I got to think of something else.
All right. So here's the deal. We come here every week. We try to give you guys a great product. We try to give you great advice. Some advice is unorthodox. Okay. Those advice I've taken it myself. And guess what? Right now, I stand here in front of you as the champion of my redraft fantasy league. The champion, and I got a very significant purse from it. So I'm not going to get into the details how much it is, but I will say it's quite significant. Not only did I win the Super Bowl, I won the season league, and then I won 5 highest scoring for 5 weeks. So with that said, I would like to tell you, listen to the Four White podcast, and you can increase your chances of being your league winner next year in 2024 season. That's my choice.
Did
Olu,
anyone
I
know?
love you so much. Only you can say, here's my takeaway. I am living proof that my
Yes,
advice is good. Look at the
yes,
effects of my advice on myself.
He
yes.
said, "Listen to me. I know what I'm doing."
Listen to me. Listen.
But you know
But
what, guys?
seriously,
To be fair though, like we're in different leagues and we've made the playoffs in all of our leagues. I believe most of our leagues, and most of us have gone pretty deep in the playoffs. So to Olu's point, we are podcasters, but we do know what we're talking about, right? I
yeah.
mean, we do have some relevance.
Yes.
Where else would you have heard in week one Tank Dell would be significant in the year? Where else would you have heard that?
Was that week one, Olu? I don't know if that was week one. I'm not sure if that was week one. That wasn't week one. He wasn't Tank Dell in week one. I was looking at his stats. He wasn't good until week 2 or 3.
Okay, really, week two or three, really, from week one. Week one, he was good. Oh, week
But
two, he
Olu,
was
you were also the guy who was saying that Puka Nakua was not anything special.
I
So
never
we
said it
win
was.
some, we lose some, right? It was
No,
one hit and one miss.
I never said Puka was not significant. I said Tank is more significant than Puka. That's what I
Also,
said.
also a miss, but we'll give you some love on finding Tank
Okay,
late
Achan
in the
as well.
NFL draft.
Achan as well. I said Achan.
Ooh,
I spoke about
here's a good
Achan.
question for you guys. Legitimate question. Offensive Rookie of the Year: C.J. Stroud or Puka Nakua?
CJ, easy. CJ, no, but
No,
No,
CJ's missed too much time. It's Puka.
yeah, yeah,
I got a
it's
question.
Puka's
Puka.
having a record-breaking rookie season.
Yeah, I
What are
have
you
to
talking
agree.
about? Well, it doesn't matter
If
what you guys think. It's going to be CJ.
if CJ
I
had
think it's
played
Puka.
those games, if CJ had played those games, then I would say okay, maybe CJ. But Puka, I mean, when you're breaking any record, Olu, like that just screams
What? Wait,
MVP.
Ooh, wait a
what
minute.
record?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me interrupt for a second. You have Rookie of the Year, then you have Offensive Rookie of the Year. Okay? You got guys like C.J. Stroud, Puka Nakua, Sam Laporta. You
Oh
got some
Lord.
people up there.
No,
So
I think it's just two awards. I think it's offensive rookie and defensive rookie. That's it.
No. There's also Rookie of the Year.
I don't think so. I think that's the NBA.
Really? No.
Yeah,
Am I
let me.
wrong?
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. I
There's
think
no,
it's only offensive and defensive. There's no like rookie MVP that's
Really?
overall. Yeah,
oh, guys.
let's verify this real quick.
So on that note, I have a question. How come nobody has ever won Rookie of the Year twice?
Oh,
Because no one's ever been a rookie twice.
There's not a
Huh?
rookie.
here the oh my gosh. All right. No.
This is the
So
guy who gives the take.
Matt
So
is
wait,
technically right. He's technically right. The Associated Press has a rookie. No. Actually, no. There's the Rookie of the Year award given to the top offensive and defensive first year players. So there's no overall Rookie of the Year. There's the one offensive and the one defensive. So they give out two Rookie of the Year awards to each
Gotcha.
side of the ball.
okay.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
check this out. Check this out. C.J. Stroud is on pace to pass for 4,000 yards in his rookie season, and 21 touchdowns and 5 INT. That's crazy. That is phenomenal for a rookie. 4,000 yards, 21 touchdown, and plus he missed time. He missed 2 weeks. So if he didn't miss those 2 weeks, he would have broken the record. So, but he still threw for 4,000. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean it is, but at the same time, what Sam Laporta's done and what Puka Nakua has done is, I would say, equally, if not even more impressive.
It's not.
So
You said CJ Stroud was on pace to do
It's not.
what?
4,000
CJ,
yards.
and how many
He's on
touchdowns?
pace for 4,000 yards.
And how many touchdowns?
He has
21.
21. He has 21 now.
So
Five, five
he's
INT.
not going to get the touchdown record because I think that was Baker, right? He had like
Baker got
26
27.
or
Baker had
27.
27.
Well, how many
Or
INT did Baker
Herbert. I think Herbert broke that record, didn't he? Didn't he break Baker's record,
He did. He
the
did.
touchdown
But
record? And
he has
Sam
five.
Laporta, the thing is, like Kyle Pitts had over 1,000 yards his rookie
Yeah,
year. So
yes.
we've seen rookies have more yards than Laporta, not the receptions and touchdowns.
I
But
mean,
Puka is
let's.
on a record-breaking season.
I mean,
Yeah.
Would you want if you want to count touchdown? I'll give you that. You want to get touchdown?
Here you go. Hold on. Passing yards for rookies. Andrew Luck threw for 4,374.
Okay.
Justin Herbert threw for 4,336. Cam Newton, 4,051. Jameis Winston, 4,042. And then CJ Stroud, right now currently sits at 3,844.
Yeah, he
So
won't
he
get the
missed
record.
time. He missed time, but Herbert also missed. Herbert played 15 games. He didn't play,
Mm,
16,
Yeah.
17 games.
They also will be playing 15 games as well.
right. So
Yeah, so he'll.
you don't have to break records to win Rookie of the Year, obviously, because it's compared to your class. But
True.
I do think
And
Puka will get it.
and also something else. Bear in mind, CJ literally brought a horrible guys. Nobody ever had Houston to be in contention to be in the playoffs. They're literally in the playoffs right now. If it ends today, so CJ Stroud literally brought them from the ashes. Like, and then you're gonna compare that to a lowly receiver who just getting
Well,
balls for.
hold on a second though. Let's not say that much because the Rams were trash last year.
There you
Okay,
go.
they were trash because the quarterback was hurt. That's why.
The reality is they were trash last year, and
Yeah, the quarterback.
so
They literally just coming from being a Super Bowl year. Not only are they coming from a Super Bowl year, they're coming from a record breaking year by a receiver. So what are we talking about? They're juggernaut in the passing game. So now compare that to a Houston team that they're literally bottom of the barrel in the NFL by all
This
accounts.
after the rankings are released, this will be a good topic for us to continue moving on with.
Okay,
So yeah, let's go ahead
yeah.
and keep it moving.
Who's next for 1 minute of shine? Is it Shed? No, it's
I
Will.
got
Yeah.
I got my quick take here. My 1 minute of shine is just Lamar Jackson. Now the by far the MVP favorite minus 20,000 odds. It's ridiculous. So if you are a betting person, which we are not really, but you don't even want to touch that. They're just saying it's his award. He's going to win it. And I love that just last week there was this journalist who said Lamar is not quarterbacky. That's the word he used. He's not quarterbacky enough to win the award. So what does Lamar Jackson do? He goes 18 for 21, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, perfect passer rating. So if that's not quarterbacky enough, that man needs to quit his job, that journalist, and do something else because he cannot recognize great quarterback play when he sees it. Lamar is the biggest reason the Ravens are rolling like they are. They just steamrolled the NFC favorite and previously the Super Bowl favorite 49ers and then destroyed the Dolphins, who were a top contending AFC team. So they've beaten two of the best teams in the last 2 weeks, and that's because of Lamar. It is his award now. He is the MVP, and as Olu had mentioned in our prep for the show, maybe it's going to be his second unanimous MVP, which has never happened before, 2 unanimous awards. But if it does, he is deserving of it.
Will, do you have anything you want to say to our 49ers fans who love listening to us?
Brock Purdy is a great quarterback. He is very good in your system, and I wish him all the best. He's going to get a fat new contract, and you're going to have to cut half your defense to pay him. So, best of
Oh,
luck.
guys. Okay, I have a question for you. Regards to that. All right, Brock Purdy, would you give him $50 million for 4 years or whatever it is? I mean, 50 million or $250 million 4 years. Would you pay Brock Purdy as an
So
organization,
I'll say this to 49ers fans.
knowing that McCaffrey might not be there
Debo
and
might not be there.
Debo might not be there? So are you
No, they
paying
just
Brock
resigned
Purdy?
Debo. Debo just got a new contract last year or this past offseason.
Right, but Brock Purdy is
That's
not
true.
going
He
to.
has a couple more years.
So Brock Purdy has a few more years on his.
Brock Purdy still has 2 more years on his rookie deal, but they would re-sign him after next year. And to answer your question, I would not. They've shown to be successful with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's trash. They've shown to be who's average. They've shown to be successful with Brock Purdy, who is Mr. Irrelevant. I think they can be successful with many quarterbacks in that system.
I know this is going to sound crazy. I would be interested to see how Sam Darnold would do as the starting quarterback in that system.
He already seen enough.
No, you don't think it would work?
I think we've seen enough of Sam Darnold.
But
Sam Darnold
Shanahan is the quarterback whisperer.
Sam Darnold is who he is. He doesn't make the best decisions. He puts the ball in harm's way. I think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback. He might be a better athlete, but Brock Purdy makes better decisions. Sam
Oh, no
Darnold is
doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I'm saying, could they? Let me rephrase it. Could they win with Sam Darnold
no,
because
sure,
of the system?
no.
Sure, they could
Olu
win
says no.
a game here and there, but he wouldn't be the long term answer. They could get by with them here and there, managing the game.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna move it. I was just gonna keep it moving. For
Keep
time.
it rolling. Keep it rolling.
My moment to shine. So I was going to talk about myself, but Olu did that, and we all crucified him for doing such a thing. So I won't do that.
I love to hear it. Go for it. I want to hear it. Shed
No,
love.
it's all good. I just, made playoffs in all my leagues. But anyways, what I am going to talk about is the injury bug for quarterbacks spread like COVID-19 in 2020. Okay. What we saw happen to quarterbacks, I don't think we could ever see that again. That was crazy. I pulled up really quickly preseason rankings of quarterbacks, like ADPs, from the beginning of the season. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, hardly any of this is right. Well, first they had Mahomes at 1, which is reasonable to think, and the man didn't get injured. He just had a down year. Josh Allen at 2, who always finishes 1. He didn't get hurt, praise God. They had Joe. This is PFF. This is PFF rankings. Okay. They had Joe Burrow at number 3. He went down. They had Justin Herbert at number 4. He went down. They had Aaron Rodgers at number 5. Didn't even last 5 minutes into the season. They had Lamar Jackson at number 6. And then Jalen Hurts at number 7. No idea why he was so low. They had Trevor Lawrence at 8. Yeah, right. And then they had Kirk Cousins at 9. He got hurt. And then they had Dak Prescott at 10. Half those guys got hurt. I was doing a little bit of research. About half the league has started a backup quarterback at some point of the season. That is crazy to think. Yes. Crazy. Even the teams that don't have top tier quarterbacks have lost quarterbacks. Daniel Jones went down. Justin Fields went down. Deshaun Watson went down. Like, the amount of injuries, it's crazy. I don't know what's in the water in the NFL, but it really lets me know you got to pay a backup quarterback if you want to win. Because we're about to see in the playoffs, we're going to see only the teams who have healthy quarterbacks, or we're going to see teams like that are rolling out guys like Jake Browning
and Joe Flacco.
Who wants to watch that? I feel bad for the Chargers. They went from Justin Herbert to Easton Stick. Or think about what the Broncos.
No disrespect to the Stick family, but
no disrespect. Or think about the hype that the Broncos had to what they have now. It's like, what in the world is going on? So, what my 1 minute of shine is nothing glorious. It's actually kind of sad, and I hate to see it. We hate to see it as fantasy footballers, but it lets you know if you're going to play fantasy football, you've got to be active on the waiver wire. But anyways, this was the longest 1 minute of shine we have ever.
Wait, can I
like 5 minutes of shine. What's that?
So how come Mahomes is not ending the year with being the number 1 as projected? Was he hurt or something, or what happened?
Down year.
I think we know. They lead the league in drops. They've had 50 drops by receivers. That's a real stat.
And blame the receivers. Oh, okay. Right,
yes, I will blame the receivers.
I will blame Kadarius Toney. Absolutely. And Sky Moore. But anyways,
and then why is Kelsey all of a sudden dropping the balls too? Like, is there something wrong with him? Is he
Kelsey aged 5 years in the span of 5 weeks?
Oh, and then Mahomes is still the best. He's still normal. He doesn't do anything wrong. He doesn't throw.
Yes, I can show you pedestrian stats that Brady had as well too. So we can go into that in the offseason.
You don't want to play this game, Olu. It will not end well. That's for another special segment. Brady versus Mahomes. We gotta do a whole special segment one day.
Anyways, we have a fun episode for everyone today. We will not be doing injury roundup because
doesn't matter.
If you're playing fantasy football into week 18, you need to join a new league because your commissioner does not know how to set up a league. What we are going to do is instead of talking about our biggest takeaways from week 17, we're going to talk about our biggest takeaways from the fantasy football season as a whole. After that, we're going to go into some fun stuff. It's New Year's. We're recording this on January 2nd. We are going to talk about our fantasy football resolutions, things that we might not ever do, things that we need to remember going forward based off this past year or years past. We're going to do blind rank. We did that a few weeks ago. Lots of fun. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make up some sort of fantasy game for the NFL playoffs. We're going to make up the rules today, and then we'll start it next week when the NFL playoffs start. So, Will, there's no injury roundup, so let's just go into the biggest takeaways from the fantasy football season. Shed, you're up first, man.
So my biggest takeaway: Justin Fields, he's their future. Did y'all realize that the Bears, Chicago Bears, are 7-9? Like
What?
I wasn't
Yeah.
following them. I didn't realize they were almost 500. Like I had to do a double take. They're 5-2 in their last 7 games, and the defense is playing well. Justin Fields is not only getting the fantasy points, but he's doing something what he wasn't doing before. He's also winning. That was a problem before that he wasn't winning. He put up fantasy points, but he wasn't winning. In Fields' last 6 games since he's been back from injury, he's averaging over 200 yards passing, 66 yards rushing, and he has a total of 8 total touchdowns in those 4 out of 6 games. And he's giving you about 25 fantasy points overall. The Bears, they've secured the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2024 draft because they have Carolina's pick, and Carolina's the worst team. The Bears should not draft a quarterback. But rather instead they should focus on offensive line, wide receiver, or maybe even better yet, trade back and pick up more picks. Go to pick 3 or 4, trade back and pick up more picks. I just think Justin Fields is the future. After seeing this season, they need to keep Fields and move on with him and use their draft picks to build around him.
I'm curious to see everybody else's thought on that. That's a very interesting.
Let's talk about that. Will, you're up first, man.
All right, I'm going to ask a question in response to Shed's take that sounds crazy. Like this, it just sounds crazy to ask this question, but I don't know if it is as crazy as it sounds. Is Justin Fields on a similar trajectory to Jalen Hurts? And within that, we can
Yeah,
say that A.J. Brown, in a way, kind of unlocked Jalen Hurts' potential. He became the receiver, the perfect receiver for Jalen Hurts. We're seeing a very similar thing with DJ Moore unlocking Fields' potential, because I think DJ Moore's having a career year, isn't he? Certainly touchdowns. This is by far the most touchdowns he's ever scored in a season, not even close. That was always his Achilles heel in Carolina. He would have yards, but not touchdowns. I agree the Bears should stick with Fields, and I'm actually wondering if he may reach the level of a Jalen Hurts as far as statistical production, and if the Bears keep building a roster, maybe they start winning. Maybe they're a playoff team next year if they keep this trajectory going.
Oli, what do you think?
I just wanted to comment on what Will said just now. I wouldn't subscribe getting a top wide receiver to a team to just Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields. I'll subscribe that to that. I think that's just the modern day NFL. In order for you to succeed as a quarterback, or to become elite as a quarterback, is shown you need a top 10 wide receiver on your roster. Joe Burrow does have one. Mahomes did have one. He had one. That's why he was putting up crazy numbers. Now that he doesn't have one, yes, he won the Super Bowl, but this year he has gone all the way down. What's it called? So basically, it shows us he needs one. Tour has one. Who else? Josh Allen got one and got better. So
Yeah.
essentially, what it me all those every young quarterback. Oh, Justin Herbert has one. Dak Prescott has one. Literally
Baker, right?
every huh?
Baker Mayfield.
I
Yep.
mean, yeah, Baker has one. So even Tom Brady left New England when he realized modern day NFL, I need one. You're not getting me one. I'm leaving and I'm going to Tampa Bay that has one. So essentially, what that tells me in today's modern days NFL, you need one of those. And if a quarterback is not doing well without one of it, it's not the quarterback's fault. We cannot blame the quarterback for being mediocre because if you don't like Mac Jones, I feel bad for Mac Jones. To be honest, I'd rather not have him, but I cannot say it's his fault. If a team doesn't have a top wide receiver, they've done a disservice to that quarterback in today's league. Even Joe Flacco, who's gone crazy, he has one. The only
Mm.
person that might not really matter for is probably going to be the second time unanimous MVP. which makes him super special. So anyway, that's that.
I'm back and forth. Do I think he's the same, going along the same career path as Jalen Hurts? I would say no, because I think, for one, Jalen Hurts is a proven winner. We saw that in college. Justin Fields was not that, but I don't think that's his fault, because he was
What?
a
He was a
second.
proven winner in college.
He was.
Ohio State.
He didn't go to no national championship game.
I
Neither did.
mean,
Well, Jalen Hurts got
Jalen
benched.
Hurts won a national championship game and then got
No,
benched.
he didn't. He didn't. He got benched and Tua won it.
And then the following year, Tua got benched and he won it. But
Yes.
Jalen Hurts was proven to get there, though. I think. See, my thing with Justin Fields, and I want to. I'll be honest. I don't want to like Justin Fields. Maybe it's because he left Georgia prematurely, and I'm a Georgia alum. But the other thing that I just can't get behind is, so I didn't think Jalen Hurts was that great a passer. Okay, Jalen Hurts, he progressed. Fields, if memory serves me correct, he only won one game last year. One
one,
game.
two.
Now this year he's doing.
Is that his fault though? Was that his fault? He
He
doesn't have
wasn't
a
that great though.
He was
Mooney.
throwing to Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, he had Mooney and he didn't have an O line. What do you want him to do?
Hey man, listen. Daniel Jones didn't have any receivers or an O line, and he went to the playoffs last year. All right, so
Well, okay, stop. Let's not do that. Stop.
I'm being serious.
That's a real.
Who did
Hey,
Daniel Jones have last year? Olu, name his receivers. Who did he have?
Let's
Who
not.
did he have? Can you name two of them?
Yo,
You just named
okay,
two of Fields.
They
okay.
have career 21 for a little bit.
Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins.
Exactly. And the worst rated offensive line. Fields, what I was saying. Let me finish my take. What I was saying here is this.
Quarterback that in a must have a yardage or must have a third down critical situation, if they have to take you away as a quarterback and consistently put the running back in the shotgun, then we can't even talk about you. It's a joke.
Well, what I was
If
saying though.
the running back has to be put in critical, must have it like big play, and they put him in shotgun and they put you on the bench, you would not to be taken seriously. You would
Who are you
never do
talking
that.
about?
I don't know how often the Giants ran Wildcat. I don't think it was that often.
They didn't
Matt
run
knows.
Wildcat.
Matt knows how much.
They didn't run no Wildcat. What you talking about?
Wait, Saquon was not in the shotgun multiple times last year.
Well, you also have to think about it too. When Drew Brees was with the Saints, Taysom Hill did a little wildcat and
Okay.
run. So like I mean the fact that you take the quarterback out for a play or two here and there, it doesn't devalue the quarterback.
We know what Taysom Hill is. We know what he is. There is no player in the NFL like Taysom Hill. I'm talking about a running back, a pure running back with no passing ability.
Hold on. Let's let Matt finish his thought.
What I was
Matt
saying
still
before I
never
was so-
finished his thought.
was to date, Justin Fields is 10 wins and 27 losses. So, to me, if I'm a Bears fan, 10 wins and 27 losses. Like, yes, there's been some, wins as of recently, but that's tough to forgive, man. 10 wins, 27 losses. And if you have a high pick, the Bears have high picks this year. If you have a high pick, and there's guys like Caleb Williams, the LSU kid Reed, if you got these guys, Drake May coming out, do you pass on someone like that for someone who's gotten you 10 wins in 3 seasons? I don't know.
Yeah, but to be fair though, like most of those wins have come latter part of last season and this season, right? So he is getting better. So you are seeing improvements. Whereas quarterbacks that are not good, you can tell by year 3 they're not making much progression. Like a Darnold or Zach Wilson, right? You don't see, but you see flashes. I don't feel
that's true. No, I'll give you that. But let's keep it moving. Biggest takeaways from the season, Olu.
Biggest takeaway from the season. I have quite a few, right? Let's see which I'm gonna go. Wait, give me a second. Okay, So biggest takeaway from the season, I would say, I want to talk about Texas offense. The Texas offense. We're talking from a fantasy perspective, right? Not just in general.
We're
Fantasy.
talking about fantasy football season.
Okay, so I think the Texans offense is probably one of the most promising offense I've seen in a long time in the first year. They have a lot of young players, and I think by next year, most of their players are going to be significantly relevant fantasy wise. So there was actually a point in time about three of the pass catchers were on pace for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns individually before they started falling off and getting hurt. Nico Collins already passed 1,000 yards. He has 7 touchdowns, and he's only played. He played like he didn't play a full stack of deck of cards. Dustin Schultz, the same thing, was on pace until he got hurt. Tank Dell was on pace, a rookie. So I feel like next year the one missing piece to the puzzle of this offense will be to get, again, like I said earlier, a top flight receiver. I would say suggest either trade for Justin Jefferson or draft someone like Malik Neighbor, or even or what's his name, the guy from Washington State, or Oduzi.
Oh
So I
yeah.
feel like get a guy like Oduzi or get a guy like Mabels or Jefferson, there will be a force to reckon with. And not only that, they just like they are this year, they were quite a significant fantasy juggernauts this year. CJ Stroud was, Tank Dell was, Nico Collins, and I feel like next year that will be astronomically increased in terms of that level of significance.
You know what? I feel like if Stroud is who we think he is, and he's going to be that guy, I don't know if they need to draft a wide receiver really high. I feel like they have good weapons right now. They have young guys that he can help develop, he can bring along. I feel like they'll have more other pieces they can fill, and then maybe get a wide receiver third or fourth round. But because if you're that guy, if you're that quarterback, right, you can take mediocre guys. Not that the receivers are mediocre, but they have weapons, right? He could take a wide receiver 3 and make him legitimate. Dalton Schultz was doing well underneath him, right? So I think they have their receivers, and I think they have to move other places in order to
Yeah,
make different moves to better the team early on.
I
like I
There,
mean,
Yeah, I want the Texans to succeed. I don't see them taking a receiver first round because they don't have their own first round pick. They traded that to the Cardinals this year to get Will Anderson. They have the Browns first round pick, but that's going to be in the 20s because they already clinched a playoff spot. I think they need to build the offensive line, and they might be better served continuing on with Tank Down, Nico Collins. I mean, if those are two guys that are going to have 1,000-yard seasons, you have also a top 5 receiving tight end. They might be better served, like Shed said, middle round drafting a receiver or bringing in a veteran, bringing in a
Yep.
decent veteran, right? Like,
yeah,
think about the Cowboys getting Brandon Cooks. Someone like that could be great because then you have this 3-wide set where all 3 guys can make plays. I think I want them to keep building the offensive line because that's probably their biggest need on that side of the ball. And D'Amico Ryans is going to figure out the defense. I mean, he's just a great
yeah, for
defensive
sure.
mind. So I want the Texans to succeed. I love what we've seen from them.
they're they're in an interesting place because if you ask me, I'm looking at the roster. Obviously, Nico Collins went over 1,000. Tank Dell would have gone over 1,000 had he not gotten hurt, but obviously his size is something that needs to be
Oh
considered
Lord,
because he's small. Dalton Schultz has 600 yards right now. He finished the year. Right now, he's played in 14 games. He has 600 yards. He's their third leading pass catcher, but he only has a 1-year deal. So
Oh,
do they bring Dalton Schultz back, who he's a middle of the pack tight end. I wouldn't say he's a top tier tight end. I don't think he's ever gone for 1,000 yards. I could be wrong with that, but they're in an interesting place because CJ Stroud can become one of the better passers in the league. He can become one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I mean, what he's shown as a rookie has been phenomenal. And so if Nico Collins and Tank Dell are able to stay healthy, what if Houston Texans did something crazy like trade up for a guy like Brock Bowers? Like
oh, that's
oh,
interesting.
oh,
whoa, what would that do to
whoa,
the team?
oh,
You
wow,
see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
Yeah, he's the
And they
best
did
tight
this.
end prospect in years.
yeah, for sure. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
what were
can
you
I?
gonna say?
I
We got
like
to
to
keep it
respond
moving.
to that. I like to respond to that. it's like I said earlier, right? Like I said earlier, I mean, number one, they need to sign Justin Schultz, and in terms of the offensive line, they are the number. They are the fourth highest. They have the fourth highest salary cap. They need to build the. They need to build the O line through free agency with veteran offensive line. But in turn, and like I said earlier, in order for a team to be successful, the data is clear. You need a top number one, clear number one receiver. Miami has Miami has we know who he has, Tyreek. Um, Eagles have AJ Brown, who is not doing much this year. Buffalo has Diggs. Literally, I can run through the whole playoffs. Every top guy in the every top teams in the most top teams in the playoff all have that guy. The data and the pattern is shown. You need that number one receiver. As much as I love Tank Dell, I would like him to be that. However, I don't you need you need the number one guy. You know what? Go get Mike Evans. Yeah, what about that?
Well, history
Mike Evans.
history has shown when a team has a quarterback on a rookie deal, they can splurge. And
Yes.
that's what the Dolphins did with Tyreek. That's what the Eagles did with AJ Brown. That's
Yes.
what the Bills did with that's what the Eagles did with AJ Brown. That's what the Bills did with
Mm,
Stephon Diggs. You can go out and
That's what the
splurge when you have a
Texans
quarterback
used to
because
do.
quarterback is going to be the majority of your salary cap. Quarterback's going to be your highest paid player. So if you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, what can you do? You can go in. You can go in
right.
on skill positions like wide receiver, or you can overpay a premier pass rusher because you have a quarterback on their rookie deal. It's when they get after their rookie deal that you got to get creative and actually draft the right guys. But they could do it, man.
Yeah.
They imagine what if the Texans went out and signed a T Higgins?
Right,
Like
because you have T Higgins. Here's your top five rookie or wide receivers: T
Uh,
Higgins,
T.
Pittman
Higgins,
Jr.,
he's not the
Mike
guy.
Evans.
He's
Go
not the
ahead,
guy.
Shed. Give us the list. Top five free agents. Who are you saying?
Top five free agents: T Higgins, Pittman, Mike Evans, Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley, and then you have like your Darnell Mooney and your Gabe Davis and your Odell. So like those are your top five. So yeah, so they're available.
That'd be
Yeah,
beautiful. Here, let me give y'all my biggest takeaway here because we're giving the Texans a lot of love. My biggest takeaway from this fantasy football season is believe in the rookies. Believe in the rookies. So this year, a lot of it was because of injuries, but guys that were taken in the first two rounds of 12-team leagues, I think it's safe to say half of those players were busts this year. And because of injuries, right? But also just like Austin Eckler completely underperforming. Patrick Mahomes not living up to the ADP. So once you build your starting lineup, right? Like if you're in a 1 QB league, you get your QB, your two running backs, two receivers, the flex spot, tight end. Throw some darts on some of these rookies. Every year we see a couple receivers, a couple running backs, and now we're even starting to see tight ends and quarterbacks produce fantasy starter level numbers in their
yep.
rookie year. And if you had guys like a Tank Dell or an A-Chain or a Zay Flowers, Sam Laporta, CJ Stroud, if you got those guys at the end of your draft, there's a very good chance you made the playoffs and maybe won your league because you probably had injuries on the front end. Believe in
I
the
did.
rookies because a lot of these for early round guys are busts and rookies have the high upside. So after you get your starting lineup, invest in the rookies. They may be your ticket to the playoffs and to the championship.
yeah, and along those lines, imagine what would have been had a Anthony Richardson not gotten injured.
Sure.
Man.
He was off to a good start fantasy
Yep.
wise. You
Yep.
know, I think, yeah, absolutely. Get these guys. I love drafting rookies at the end of my draft. I think those guys can end up winning you a league. I mean, my guess is that Sam Laporta appeared on many championship rosters this past season.
Yes.
Like he finished as the tight end one of fantasy football, and more than likely he was a waiver pickup or a draft after round 12.
Mm-hmm.
And believe in them, absolutely. And we've seen rookie receivers go off now for the last 5 years. I mean, look at what Justin Jefferson did his rookie year. Look at what Jamar Chase did his rookie year. Look what Amon-Ra St. Brown did at the end of his rookie year. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
last year, Olave and Garrett Wilson each had good rookie
Mhm.
years. Puka Nacua had a good rookie year. Like, these guys can go off. The only thing we didn't see is we only saw one rookie running back. Well, maybe two rookie running backs be relevant, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
Bijan
was going to
was
say
relevant.
Bijan's ending numbers, well, after this past week, like 1,300 yards, total yards, and 7 touchdowns.
They weren't
That's
what we
relevant.
expected, but they were good. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'll just keep it moving really quick, guys. I'll make mine really quick. My biggest takeaway from the fantasy football season is every year at the beginning of the year, there are always people who are saying, this is the year to do the zero running back strategy. This is the year to do the zero running back strategy. I think this year may have been the year to actually do the zero running back strategy, because when you look at the guys, if you look at the top 10 fantasy running backs at the end of the season, in that list, you will see Raheem Mostert, you will see Kyron Williams, you will see Rashad White. Believe it or not, you'll see Joe Mixon and you'll see Jahmyr Gibbs. None of these guys were none of these guys were drafted in the first 3 rounds of your fantasy football draft. None of these, I would argue that the highest of those 5 names, Mostert, Williams, White, Mixon, and Gibbs, the highest drafted guy was probably Rashad White, and he may have been a round 4 guy. If you went zero running back, this was the year to do it, because you might have won your league getting on.
Explain what you mean by zero running back to people.
Yeah, explain to our viewers in case for those who don't know.
So the zero running back strategy is basically where you fade running back and you don't draft your first running back until maybe rounds 5, 6, or 7. So what you do is you go in on receiver, you go in on your quarterback. You'll draft 3 receivers in the first 4 rounds. You know, within the first 5 rounds, you may have 2, 3 receivers, a quarterback, and possibly your tight end. You fade the running back position, but then you load up. You load up on running backs through rounds 6 through 10, and you maybe draft 3 guys.
So are you referring to a fantasy? I mean, a redraft or the dynasty?
Absolutely redraft. Dynasty.
Yeah.
Dynasty would only be rookies. There wouldn't be guys like Rashad White. They wouldn't be available for drafting in Dynasty. I'm just talking redraft.
And I would,
So
I
this would
would
have been the year.
Oh, totally. I agree with that take. And I was just going to say quickly that zero running back is usually implemented in PPR, because obviously in PPR, receivers tend to have more value. And you can find a receiving running back in the middle rounds, like you said, Rashad White or even a Jahmyr Gibbs, who add value because they might get 4 or 5 receptions a game. And so you get that extra value from your early receivers, and then you get equal value from those pass catching running backs. Because like in a PPR league, a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Rashad White is more valuable than like a Derrick Henry, a Joe Mixon, guys with yards and touchdowns but no receptions. So this would be the year for zero running back in redraft PPR for sure.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, you
I
can
think
think about
that's
it.
a good distinction to mention PPR because, like in my league, I actually did the opposite where I went top 4. I did 4 running backs first, and when I did that, I was almost untouchable.
Well,
So,
who were
but
those running backs
mine
though?
is a
You got
non-PPR.
McCaffrey, but McCaffrey is a trump card, because McCaffrey scored over 100 points more than the guy in second place when it comes to running backs. So I mean, he was the anomaly. Outside of McCaffrey, though, like Austin Eckler was probably the running back 2 preseason ADP. After that, you had guys like Nick Chubb, who got injured. You had guys like Tony Pollard, who disappointed. You had guys like Saquon Barkley, who disappointed.
What
So,
about Jonathan Taylor?
Same thing.
yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he came on later. But, you know, what I'm saying, though, is for the value, you were better off with a Rashad White later. You were better off. I don't know when Kamara was drafted in most of our rounds, but Kamara missed the first 4 games and then came on strong. So if you would have faded running back this year and not have drafted a running back till round 5, unless you drafted a guy like McCaffrey early, there might not have been much value in drafting a running back that high this past year, because you could have gotten Raheem Mostert. You could have gotten Raheem Mostert later.
David Montgomery even.
Yeah, you could have got James Cook. You know, you could have gotten these guys much later in your draft rather than spending your premium first 2 round picks on guys like Bijan, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, Saquon. It's like this was the year to do zero running back.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's a good caveat to say. Unless okay, so let's put this as a caveat because this is a good tip. Unless you're picking the first three picks, you should probably pick a receiver first. What about that?
With the way the league has gone, especially if you're PPR, unless it's McCaffrey,
Right, that's
unless
what I
it's a
mean.
running
It's
back who gets the
Yeah.
receptions.
But I also think this was a really weird year because by far the top two receivers drafted by ADP was Jefferson and Chase, who because of injuries and weird quarterback play obviously did not live up to that. CeeDee Lamb was probably the third receiver taken.
No,
Tyreek
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 was the third.
That's true. Tyreek was probably the third, CeeDee the fourth. They ended up as the top two in fantasy, I think, after week 17. So it was just a weird year with injuries and people just having down seasons. It was a strange season.
This actually gets into our next segment. Why don't we move to our next segment? Fantasy football resolutions. Shed has something that may shed light on that. Shed, why don't you go into this? This is a segment that's made up. It's a new one. What is your resolution going into 2024 based off of what you've learned or what you've gained from all your years past in fantasy football or even this past year? New Year's
Yeah.
resolution, fantasy football style. Go for it.
Yeah, it's funny we were talking about this because this is a perfect segue into what I'm talking about. So my fantasy resolution moving forward is starting next year is after week 1, you should go all in with either free agents or rookies who have produced. Like so after week 1, you have that guy or two that's really producing. So you're wondering, man, should I put a waiver claim in for him? Should I pay a lot of fantasy bucks for this different individual? I would say yes, because as we saw
Yeah, no.
this year, there was definitely those guys out there, and there was a lot of them this year. Like you had guys after week 1 who were doing good. Like you had your Puka and your Kyron Williams, your Dallas defense, right? Maybe your Jacoby Myers that might have went later on, your Rashid Shaheed, even like your Brock Purdy, depending on where he went on in the draft, right? You also have to be able to forecast then those guys later on who are going to do well. They may have had an okay week 1, but guys that came on during week 2, you're talking like your CJ Stroud, your Tank Dell, and your Rashad White, right? And even to a lesser degree your Devin Achane. So being able to figure out who those guys are and actually react and act on them quickly. Sure, you have about a 25% hit rate on that, but if you wait on those guys, they're gonna be gone. So starting next year, 2024, if you see a guy that's produced, and typically I do that, is I find a guy who's doing really well and I go all in. Because who knows, like if you go all in this guy, this guy could help you win your league.
Yeah, I think to Shed's point, fantasy football, if you want to win, you've got to work, like
Yeah.
especially those first few weeks. And what I mean by that is after the first week, the thing that I'm doing is I'm looking at which receivers are getting the targets. If a receiver gets 10 to 15 targets in week 1, that is not a fluke. Puka Nakua, his targets were up there week 1. Look at the production. Keenan Allen, his targets were up there week 1. Look at the production. When you see a running back that has a snap percentage higher than 70%, that is telling you something. Okay. The Rams offense, we all went into the season thinking Cam Akers was going to be the guy. Kyron Williams slowly took over.
Yep.
Okay. Like you've got to, if you want to win, you've got to work. And I think those first 2 weeks, especially week 1, you've got to be aggressive on the waiver wire. You've got to be willing to take risks with your fab bucks, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. That's a great resolution. Yeah, Will.
Just on Kyron Williams, I was going to say, actually, I think he quickly took over because people were getting him off waivers going into week 2, if I'm not mistaken. And it was still a
Yep.
little bit of a risk, but from that point on, he was off to the races, and Cam Akers got once again in McVay's doghouse, got traded, and then ended up tearing his ACL. But it's
Oof.
true. Week 1 often tells you a lot, and you got to be quick on waivers and take some risks, right? Like you may have to cut one of those veteran players you got later in the draft to add that guy who produced unexpectedly in week 1, but a lot of the time it's worth it. It's a good trade.
Yeah, Shed, go
So
in, man.
yeah, so it's funny. So like that's been my secret, and I'm gonna give you guys my little secrets here. But that's been my secret moving forward. Like I see a guy that's producing and doing well, I go all in, right? Like like who was it? Remember a couple years ago, Corey went all in for Jalen Hurts, right? And he spent like
Right.
$80 or $90 on fantasy bucks on Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts hit, right? And we were all like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" But he saw him early and he went in on him, right? Because you see guys like Jalen Hurts who's behind Carson Wentz or Kyron Williams, and who's behind Cam Akers, and Cam Akers had what the last 5 games he was producing, but there was something that wasn't right about him when it came to his production and his issue with McVay. So I knew something was up. So that's why I went ahead and jumped on Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I'm looking at my history in one of the leagues I'm in, one of the dynasty leagues I'm in. I put a waiver claim on him and got him on September 12th. So that was right after week one. So his production, week one, he had 65% of the snaps, 15 carries, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns week one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
He probably wasn't drafted in 95% of redraft leagues. So you've got to work if you want to win. But let's keep it moving. Fantasy football resolution. I believe, Will, you're next? Or is it
No,
Olu?
Olu. Give it to
Olu's
Olu.
next. Olu, you're next,
So,
man.
all right, so I'll start with this. On my championship roster for my redraft league, my one biggest weakness is or was the tight end position, and this is after drafting Sam Laporta and Njoku. It still became my weakness, my weakest position. Here's the reason why. After week one or week two, Sam Porter started slow. As soon as week two rolled around, I got impatient and I dropped them. That was probably one of my biggest miscues of this season. I dropped him. And by week four, he was blossomed into what the tight end he became. And Njoku might have taken longer until Flacco kind of came around, but I dropped both of them, and that became one of my Achilles heel. I would have gone undefeated, except the guy who took Sam Porter beat me with Sam Porter. So so if it wasn't for that, and during the playoffs, I picked up Juwan Johnson, who Will advised against and made fun of. I picked up Juwan Johnson, and Juwan Johnson was phenomenal throughout the playoffs. So I was lucky. So my point is, when you pick a player, especially a rookie player who is slated to do well, be patient. Don't drop him right away. Give him a couple of weeks. See how he develops. Don't get impatient. Like, all right, I need my roster going. So that's what I learned. Okay, I'm gonna give more time to rookies, or just to anyone that I foresee a big season too, and not getting patient and dropping people. And then those people becomes those others still and fab pick up, you know, from the free agency.
So let me ask you guys these questions because between the four of us, we have a lot of success in fantasy football. Obviously, Olu said he won a league this past year. I made the playoffs in all my leagues, won one of them. But let me ask you this: the tight end position is notoriously shallow. It's always been like that. It's always been a shallow position.
Right.
Does that mean we should be even more patient with the tight ends as they go forward? Because as Olu said, he said he drafted Njoku and Sam Laporta. After 2 weeks, he had dropped each of them. Okay. Now there is reason to
No,
do
Ujoku
that.
was longer. Ujoku took longer because he found a little success in the beginning. Then, as time went on, he began to fall and falter, up to a point like, you know what, I need a tight end, and I dropped them to
So
create space.
so the
But
question I'm
then,
asking
towards
then
the
is
end,
how long until you drop somebody?
he became
How
tight end
long
number
until you move
one.
on?
You said what?
How long until you just say, you know what,
So,
this guy's
uh,
not working out, he's not panning out, time to move on?
Sam Porter was the first 2 weeks because it was a rookie. Unjoku took about 6 weeks, 6 weeks.
No, and I'm asking for advice based on how long do you guys typically say, okay, this guy's not panning out, let me move on?
So, yeah, I'll just say quick. It's always a risk. There's always risk involved because there are other guys who you think are going to produce, and maybe you decide I'm going to be patient. Let me hold on to this guy, and then they never do. Like this year, I think based on ADP, both Kyle Pitts and Pat Fryermuth were in the top 8 to 10 tight ends drafted this year,
Right,
and they
right,
never picked up. So
right.
No,
if you held on to
no.
those guys, waiting week after week, maybe this is the week, maybe finally it's going to work, It never did. So it's always a risk, right? Like I would have been quicker to drop Njoku than
Right.
Freiermuth or Kyle Pitts,
Right.
just
Because
based
of the
on
draft
past
capital.
production. But by the time you got to the fantasy playoffs, Njoku, if you had him, could have actually got you into the playoffs the last couple weeks and then won you a couple games with how he's producing. So this is why we love and hate fantasy football, because it's impossible to predict. How can you possibly know? Because it's not, past production doesn't always tell you. The offensive
Yeah,
scheme doesn't always tell you. It's tough.
I would
Oh, you
say
know the craziest
based
one?
on Njoku's season and how it went, if you were in the playoffs with Njoku, you probably did not draft Njoku. You probably picked him up
Yeah.
somewhere midway
Yes.
because he
Yes.
was not the guy that you had
No.
all season long. I was going to say, to Will's point, for myself, if the draft capital was high, I have a lot of patience. If the draft capital and investment was low, like let's say I drafted a guy after round 10, I'm quick to move on. But if he was within the first 3, 4, 5 rounds, I'm very patient, which sometimes kills somebody if you were holding on to a guy like Eckler, and unwilling to move him. I had a trade offer. Somebody offered me mid-season Jalen Waddle and Joe Mixon for Austin Eckler. Like that's probably a lateral move, but when I look at it, Austin Eckler was nothing all year. He was nothing. Waddle could have been helpful. There was spurts where Joe Mixon could have been helpful, but I held on because of the draft capital. And it's like, you've got to be willing to take risks. Scared money don't make no money. Yeah, all of
Yeah.
them.
Oh, the craziest one for me was Judge Pickens. So when Judge Pickens started the year, he did okay, marginally average. Like he did well enough to score 10 points, 17 points, once in a while 20 points. And then there was a drought period where I kept playing him thinking, all right, come on, chicken. Like, because he's good for one touchdown, one big what's it called? One big catch, one big play and a touchdown. But then there's a progression towards the end where he was doing nothing, which is the Steelers offense. They weren't doing anything. So I traded him, right? I traded him to a guy who loves UGA players. And luckily for me, he gave me what's it called? Mike Evans. And then as soon as I traded him, he became wide receiver number one, number two for the whole playoffs. Judge Pickens became wide receiver number one, number two for the whole playoffs, scoring like 2 touchdowns, over 150 yards each game. So that was a little like maddening. Like, what could I have learned from that? I have no idea. That was crazy.
Yeah, Pickens blew up in the playoffs. That's true. But let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Fantasy football, New Year's resolutions. Will, go for it.
Okay, I'm going to make this very clear and very brief. My New Year's resolution going into the 2024 fantasy football season is simply this. If Arthur Smith remains as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, I'm not touching anybody on that offense. I don't need my blood pressure to be that high. I don't need to be stressing that much every week where they don't report injured,
Dude,
sick players. They don't pass the ball to clearly their top two most talented receivers, Kyle Pitts and Drake
Guys, they
London.
drafted in the top 10.
Yes, the ADP you spend on these guys. And I don't know what it is, if it's stubbornness, if it's pride, if he's trying to prove that he's smarter than anybody else. If Arthur Smith is the coach of the Falcons going into 2024 season, I'm not touching anybody on that roster. That is my resolution.
I do not understand. I don't think fantasy football players understand how a guy can have something like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and you would think if you have
Bijan.
two of these guys, and you would think if you have two of these guys, one of them produces. None of them produced. Like
None of them.
No. I saw let me just say this really quick, like 20-second thing. There's this guy on ESPN, Bill Barnwell, and I think he mostly does basketball stuff, but he used this analogy. He said, imagine if the Warriors ran their offense through Festus Ezeli and Andrew Bogut instead of the Splash Brothers. And that's what Arthur Smith is doing. Like, he has the Splash Brothers, and he's running his offense through Tyler Algier, Matt Collins, and Jonnu Smith. What are
Dude,
you
Smith.
doing? What are you doing?
first of
It's
all,
ridiculous.
let's slow down on trying to like badmouth my boy Tyler Algier. He's the only running back I have in dynasty. Let him keep getting the ball, and we're all Gucci. That's all I have to say.
He is not
Trade him for a
Bijan
first.
Robinson.
Trade him for a first round pick. But anyways, my New Year's fantasy football resolution. People like to be cute every year and wait to draft their quarterback. They like to be cute and think, oh, I'll just get Deshaun Watson later in round 8 or 9, and that will pay off. Oh, you see what I'm saying? People like to do these things. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, we couldn't have predicted that. But they want to say, oh, I'll just draft Aaron Rodgers later. People want to get cute and they want to do that. Chances are your league was won by somebody who had Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. Pay up for the quarterback. The past couple years in fantasy football, I've started drafting my quarterbacks in the top 5 rounds. 5 years ago, that was like known as a sin. You didn't do that. You waited for your quarterback.
Sure.
No. Jalen Hurts in one league made it to the finals. I shouldn't have been there. The rest of my team got injured, was full of busts. In another league, I took Lamar Jackson, won that league. Like in another league, I had Justin Herbert, made it to the playoffs. I took him, I think, in round 5. And then in my last league, well, that league was a dynasty league, and the rest of my skill players carried that. But I think pay up for your quarterback. Don't be scared. These guys will score. Josh Allen is guaranteed to score 2 touchdowns a game. He's guaranteed. He's going to rush for one. He's going to pass for one. It happens. Jalen Hurts, he's going to score 2 touchdowns.
How many passes is going to give away?
Doesn't matter, though. He's still the number 1 overall fantasy player.
The man was the number 1 overall fantasy player and rushed for 15 touchdowns. It doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts rushed for 15 touchdowns on top of the passing volume. So I think at the end of the day, pay up for the quarterback. Don't be scared to draft a quarterback in rounds 2 or 3 if it's a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, if it's someone like that who's guaranteed to get you production as long as they don't get hurt. Don't get cute and try to draft somebody late just thinking, oh, I'll draft all these other guys. No, you'll be paying for it all year. All right. Anyways, did anyone want to say anything about that?
Yeah. One year I had a quarterback. I forgot who it was, but he got injured. So I didn't have a quarterback at all that entire year, and I struggled in my fantasy. Like it's a nightmare when you don't have a good quarterback and you're trying to run with like a Zach Wilson who's going to be killing you week in and week out, right? Like it was just like, so because of that, I had that bad season. Because of that, like I always take a quarterback early, right? I figure out one of those guys that can scramble. They're going to be the top of my list to draft because I don't want to be in that situation again where I'm just like,
dude, I don't want my quarterback to be Jared Goff. Because Jared Goff, or you get cute and you think, oh, Daniel Jones was a top 10 fantasy quarterback last year, so let me wait until round 11 to draft Daniel Jones. It just doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. Like, get somebody who's going to guarantee you 20 fantasy points a game, 25 fantasy points a game. Get Josh Allen, get Jalen Hurts, get him in your 2nd round, 3rd round. You will be happy you did. Listen to my advice. Anyways, what we're going to do now is we're going to keep it moving. Episode's a little longer today. That's okay. We're having fun. We're going to do a segment we did about a month ago, blind ranking, where what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask one of the other co-hosts here to blind rank or to rank these players without knowing who comes next, okay? I'm going to give each person 5 players in succession, one by one, and they're going to rank said player without knowing who comes next. Only positional players, okay? So, guys, I have a list. I have quarterbacks. I have running backs, I have receivers, and I have tight ends. I'll let you guys choose who wants to go first, and then what do you want?
Give me the quarterbacks.
All right, so Will, you're going to go first, okay? Will, you are going to rank these quarterbacks, and we're probably going to make fun of you afterwards, but rank these quarterbacks without knowing who comes next, okay?
And this is rankings going into the 2024 season.
2024.
Okay.
So based off of their career, their projections, whatever it is, rank this quarterback without knowing who comes next. Okay, ready? Number 1, Dak Prescott.
3.
Number 2, Brock Purdy.
2.
Okay, next one. You ready for this? This isn't easy. Justin Fields.
Dang. Oh, man, I hope the last 2 are trash quarterbacks. For fantasy, compared to those 2 guys, I'll put Justin Fields ahead of them, assuming he's healthy. Put him at 1.
Okay. Put him at 1. Kirk Cousins.
4.
And last one, Tua Tagovailoa.
Dang. 5.
So you had Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, then Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and then pulling up the rear, Tua Tagovailoa. How you feel about that one?
I think the biggest mistake is honestly, I would put Tua ahead of Kirk. The others, I could very much see it playing out that way. That Justin Fields would be the top fantasy quarterback out of those 5 because he's the only one with rushing upside of the ones you named.
It's true. No, it's
And then
100%
Brock
true.
could be ahead of Dak very easily. And then Dak could be ahead of Tua because Tua is having a career year. Maybe he won't exactly match these numbers, and the Dolphins run a lot. And then Kirk last because we don't know where Kirk's going to be playing. So that might be the only one that I would flip is Tua ahead of Kirk. Those 5 are so close together. As far as fantasy production, that was brutal. That was a brutal list.
They are, but yeah. Anyways, that was tough.
I kept waiting for give me Derek Carr or someone that's clearly last.
Let's keep it going. Who wants to go next? Running backs, receivers, or tight ends?
I'll go.
I can go.
All right. What do you want? What do you want, Shed?
Oh, do you care?
No, go for it. Go for it. Anything.
Okay, give me running backs.
Okay, here we go. First one. Rank these running backs without knowing who comes next. Okay. Jahmyr Gibbs.
5.
3.
Okay.
3.
Isaiah Pacheco.
4.
Austin Eckler.
5.
Wow.
Kyron Williams.
1.
And lastly, I have Christian McCaffrey.
2. Okay.
So your list is Kyron Williams,
that's
Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, and Austin Eckler. That's
pretty good.
Really good.
Just flip those first 2, and that's correct.
You could stand by that list. You could very well stand by that list.
And the reason why Eckler was 5 because we don't know where he's going next year, what's happening to him.
He's done.
Dude. Yes, he's done too well. Gibbs is 3. 1 and 2 could be either flipped right depending on CMC. Yeah, so I feel good about that.
Well done.
Yeah.
So
well done.
I think Austin Eckler's done, man.
You guys saying Eckler is next year's Dalvin Cook?
Yes.
That's accurate.
100%.
Yes, that's a good comparison.
Dalvin Cook. So he's done next. I don't know if he's
done.
He will not be a starter. He will not be a starter.
He's pushing 30. He's undersized. He's been injured, and he doesn't have a contract.
And he has no burst. He has no burst anymore.
Look at what happened to Leonard Fournette. You get these guys once they get to the back end of their contracts and their 20s. Teams are ready to move on because you got plenty of guys coming in who are young, who have less traction, and who are more explosive. Yes, move on.
That's true. I can see that. That's true.
Let's keep it moving. Olu, do you want wide receivers or tight ends?
Let's go receivers. Let's go.
Okay, this one's tough. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Olu, rank these wide receivers without knowing who comes next. Okay, ready? First up, Stephon Diggs.
Oh, 4.
4.
Yes. He's not having a good year.
You said, no, this is big for next year's ADP. Okay. So for 2024.
Next 4.
4. Okay. Next, Garrett Wilson.
3.
Okay. Next up, Keenan Allen.
Next year. Give me a second. Oh, okay. I hate to do this. I want to say 2.
Wow.
Okay. How about this one? Marvin Harrison Jr.
5.
That's so tough. You don't know where he's going to end up. That's a rough one to throw in there.
No idea. Okay, and I think you're going to like this one. Last one is Jamar Chase. You put him at number 1.
That's a pretty good list. That's a good list.
Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yep.
That works.
Yeah, that works.
Thank you. Finally, I got one. Oh, man.
That was aggressive to go Stephon Diggs at number 4 first.
Yeah, because
Matt, I would have done the exact same thing. Yeah, right.
I think this is beginning of his decline.
No, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. 100%. I think his career is going in the same trajectory as guys like D-Hop, AJ Green, Julio Jones. I think we're gonna see once guys get to a certain point, once they start to go down, they go down hard.
Yes.
They go down hard.
I'll be shocked if they don't move him from him next year.
It's gonna be tough to move him with his contract though.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He has a contract that's not easy to move, and he's aging.
Over. All right.
Yeah, but anyways, that concludes it. What we're going to do now, let's just talk briefly about what we're going to do for the playoffs, guys. So
Yes.
throughout the season,
Recap. Can we just recap where we're at?
what's that?
Can we just recap what we're doing before we move on on our weekly stuff?
You want me to talk about the single game mock, what happened?
Yeah, just recap.
Why don't you do that, Olu? Why don't you say what happened? Because I can't do it justice.
You do well. You do well. You're not you say
Olu, I don't think I can say it with the passion. And I don't think I can say it with the passion and the conviction.
You go for it. You're the host with the most. Come on. I can't take that from you.
All right, this is what I'll do. I'll do it. I won't do it justice. But this past season, from week 2, we had a single game mock draft for every Thursday night game. We kept a running scoreboard the entire time. And at the very end of the season, we tallied up all the points scored from every single Thursday night game. And the king of Zamunda came out in first place. Olumide finished the season with 465 points. He scored way ahead of second place, which was Shed with 399 points. So Olu is our regular season single game mock champion. Olu, do you have anything you want to say? Do you have any speech you want to give that is within 30 seconds, Olu?
I was doubted. I was counted out. I was called a fluke player. I was told to play the running back position, and I said no. I wanted the quarterback, and I ended up becoming the unanimous MVP on my way to the second unanimous MVP, and the only one to score in the 400 points. And I was well over mid Mac of it. So I just want to say, you kids out there, when they count you out, when they doubt you, keep working for your goals. Keep working for your dreams. Only the man in the arena counts.
He said I was the unanimous MVP.
Oh, this from our meaningless mock draft. We got to put something on it next year, though. We got to put some skin in the game next year for this.
We do like if Will loses, he has to shave his head.
Now, that was directed for the audience. Now this is directed to you guys. You guys be a weakness, right? It didn't matter where I chose or who I chose. They just tend to go up.
They went off. Oh, we got that juju. So, anyways, what we're thinking of doing is we got to have something similar to that because we've loved finishing out each episode with a single game mock. I don't know if we could do a week by week mock draft, but maybe what we could do, guys, I don't know if you guys had any ideas. I've been involved in some fantasy playoff competitions that were actually really fun. One I was involved in was at the very beginning of the playoffs. There was, I don't know, maybe 10 of us, 12 of us, whatever. And basically what we did is we each drafted a team, okay? A quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end. But you can only draft one player from each team, okay? It wasn't a draft. You just chose. So we could all have Mahomes. But then no one can draft. You can't draft another Kansas City player if that's the route you went. And then once that player is out, you don't have a bench. So you only draft one quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end, something like that, based off all the playoff teams. And you can only draft one player per team. That's one thing I was a part of. It was lots of fun. Another thing I was a part of was a, and this could be fun too. I was in a pool of like 10 guys, and we did a best ball. Basically, we had a draft that was, you draft a start. We drafted, I think, 12 total people. You didn't set your lineup, and whoever scored the highest was your starter based off of the playoff players. So if you drafted only 2 quarterbacks, if those 2 quarterbacks go out in the first round, you ain't got no quarterback for the rest of the playoffs. So, it was something like that, So we could do a best ball where we have like 18 rounds. No, we don't need 18 rounds. Like 10 rounds or something like that.
Yeah, I like the first idea. So within the first idea, for example, let's say if you have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, the Eagles go out round 1. Moving forward, you don't have a quarterback. But if you have, let's say you have Zay Flowers and the Ravens make it to the Super Bowl, You're getting points every week. Zay Flowers
Points
scoring.
every week. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Or
it's interesting, right? Because do you draft a wild card player and hope they
Exactly.
can push
Exactly.
along, right?
If
So
you draft Lamar, you're not going to get him for a week. Because he has a bye week.
I love that idea. Let's do that. Let's do that next episode. You draft your playoff team, one player from each team. Let's do that.
Yeah, and again, you could draft, and again, we could all have on our rosters Lamar Jackson. It's not a draft as far as like once someone's gone, no one else could take him. We could all have similar teams.
Whoever could fill the roster with the highest points.
Yes. So it's but here's the thing though, it is a one-time draft. So we would do it next week, and then the following weeks, what would we do? Just update the scores? I mean,
yeah,
that's all it is, because you don't draft again. You draft one
So
time.
what if the people you drafted from a team that loses and falls out the playoffs?
Tough luck. That's it.
Then you get no points after that.
Best case scenario. Best case scenario
Wow.
is you have 2 players playing in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Best case scenario.
Okay, let's do that. Wow. Okay, I love that. Let's go. Let's do it.
Worst case scenario is you have nobody playing in the Super Bowl.
It's as much a playoff prediction as it is a fantasy prediction.
yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
so
That's good.
next week, can we also have our predictions for the playoffs?
Yeah, let's do that. That's fine. We can put together a segment. So let's do this. So what we'll do for that is we'll come in and maybe we could just make those picks online live, because the reality is we won't have much. We might not have much to talk about. So as far as the rest of the segment goes, so we'll just say your lineup needs to consist of 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a tight end, and we'll just leave it at that. Do you guys feel good about that, or do you want to do a flex? Do you want to do
No. That's cool. That will work for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right, let's make it happen, y'all. That's our episode. That's our episode for today. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for making this a great fantasy football season. On Instagram, we're about to hit 100 followers. Stay tuned for that. We're going to have a special post for that. But going forward, we do have fun stuff for the playoffs. Your hosts, Matt, Will, Shed, and Olu. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.